I'll call this meeting to order and we'll start with the roll call. Or no, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We'll start with the approval of the general fund vouchers. 76,847 through 76,914, voiding 76,912. Wire transfers 181,90551 through 181,90591. And activity fund vouchers 9555 through 9599, voiding 9562.
I move to approve.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the general fund vouchers as read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Can we go back to the approval of the minutes?
Yeah, thanks, Christy. The approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting June 10th, 2019. Anybody have any changes they'd like to make? Seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the meeting minutes?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the regular board meeting minutes from June 10th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Then the next sections are public comments on agenda items. Anybody have anything they want to share? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to Spotlight on Education with the Travel Club.
Yeah, I'm here tonight to fill you all in on some positive events that our students have taken part in here this summer. The first I'd like to discuss is our travel club trip that we took to Costa Rica. We left on June 11th, and 22 Clear Lake students, parents, some staff spent 10 days in this tropical Central American country. We experienced Latin American language, and music, dancing, food, wildlife, and a strong sense of conservation of natural resources, which is a very strong constitution of this ecologically minded nation. Our students had a great sense of adventure. We went kayaking, whitewater rafting, zip lining, played soccer with a local high school, viewed an assortment of wildlife from crocodiles to toucans to sloths, swam in the Pacific Ocean, among many other activities. Secondly, it's all right if I combine both agenda items in one. Secondly, just this weekend.
Mr. Crawford, do you mind backing up? Just can you explain just a little bit, like how often you guys go and kind of what type of students?
Every 2 years, our travel club tries to take our students outside of the United States, travel overseas somewhere to just to open their eyes to what's out there, experience a different culture, open their minds to different ways of life that exist outside of Clear Lake. So 2 years ago, we went to Costa Rica, essentially the exact same agenda that we did this time, and loved it. Everything about that itinerary was a blast, and we decided to do it again. And Costa Rica is different from, say, Europe, where it's a lot more sense of adventure and outside-based activities for our kids, while still getting that experience of a different culture. They get to, like I said, zip line or go kayaking or whatever. And it's also the most affordable trip that I've led students on in the years of doing this too, because 2 years prior to that, we went to Spain and Morocco, Northern Africa. 2 years before that, it was Paris, France. 2 years before that, the travel club went to Rome, Italy. And those trips to Europe they're unaffordable now. They really are. I mean, you're looking at $4,000 just to cross the ocean, and I don't feel that. I don't even want to, try to market that to our kids. I just feel it's too much. Costa Rica is half of that, and if you do your homework, like we planned this trip 2 years ahead of time, and our kids were able to fundraise, and I mentioned that a little bit later about the stuff that goes into planning this thing, and it takes a commitment from our parents and our kids. And it was that's why I want to go back to Costa Rica in another 2 years probably, because I feel it's the most affordable opportunity for our kids to do this.
And I think Mr. Crawford does a fantastic job too, just facilitating it, organizing it, getting the kids motivated to go to the fundraiser. I know they do a couple different fundraisers. I think the main one is the Brat Stand. But two things that I thought were, just coming into the district and learning more about it, because it's kind of school affiliated, but it's not really. Mr. Crawford obviously is an employee, and it's offered to our students, but kind of it's connected to the school, but it's outside of the school as well. And one thing that I found just really, it's open to all students, all high school students, 9 through 12, right?
Completed 9th grade to go on the trip that summer.
But really, I don't know if it was this year or the last trip, but we had 1 or 2 students that had never even left Polk County, correct?
Yeah.
Which I think is just...
A couple students this trip who had never been outside of Wisconsin or Minnesota, had never been on an airplane before. And
so it's just
wide eyes.
A really cool experience for all kids, but especially some of the kids that haven't even left the state. It's sounds like a neat experience. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
It's all good. Secondly, I want to talk about an event that just took place this weekend. But to do that, I have to back up almost 2 years. You might remember in October of 2017, I was in here asking the board for board approval to create a couple new social studies courses. And one of them was going to be entitled Hamilton the Musical. And this course became a semester-long class using the 46 songs from this pop culture phenomenon called Hamilton as our textbook. And given the lyrical content of those songs, it became history, civics, political science, economics, foreign policy, and a musical theory class all rolled into one. So as an exclamation point to us running the class this year, this weekend, we went to the musical down in Chicago. And other than Chicago, New York City, Broadway is the only place in our country that has a permanent residence for the Hamilton musical. And Saturday we left, we drove down, we toured the city, and yesterday we saw the play. And if you've heard of Hamilton, it is as good as it's cracked up to be. It really is. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes of nonstop motion, dancing, music, and U.S. history. It's an incredible production. Our kids laughed, they cried. It was that good. It was awesome. I would go tomorrow if I could. And considering how fast the tickets sell out, I'm grateful that we were able to, capitalize on that opportunity for our kids. So in closing, traveling overseas or to Chicago, it takes a commitment. Our students, our parents, we've been planning Costa Rica for 2 years. We had to buy the tickets for Hamilton in December so that they wouldn't sell out for July, and they did. The place was packed. And when we finally went, our kids, they volunteered to fundraise, work concession stands, and so on to make this thing happen. And when we finally went on the trips, I couldn't have been more impressed with or proud of the way that our kids handled themselves. It really was a tremendous experience. It opened their minds. They had a sense of adventure. They came back, I believe, more confident, more well-rounded, more accepting young adults. So I'd like to say thank you to all of you on the board, Mr. Gillis, Mr. Ernst, for allowing me to plan these opportunities for our kids. I feel they're way more than they appear to be on the surface. They're way more than just a couple of days gone. They're way more than just trips. They're events that only change our kids for the better, and they're nothing but a positive. And I hope that they're highlights that they can look back on in their adulthood and look back on fondly. So, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Crawford.
It was a lot of fun. Kids are
How
great.
many kids went to the play?
We had 10 kids and 2 chaperones. Yep.
Nice.
So are you going to offer the class again?
Yes, it's offered every other year.
Okay.
This year we're teaching AP US history, and on the off year of that, we offered the electives, different social studies electives that I teach. So this past year we taught the Hamilton musical the first semester, and then the character education, the Medal of Honor, second semester. And thinking 2 years from now we'll get enough interest in both of those classes to do them again.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
If folks are looking at a house in Costa Rica, maybe you can stay at it next time.
That would be great. Tell them where to go.
I don't think they were upset with where they did stay, though. They had some pretty nice places.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. place. It really is. It's just different. Everything's green, you know. It's just the wildlife is amazing. The weather is fantastic. It's a good place to go.
Well, Shkov, thanks for coming in and sharing, but more importantly, thanks for leading these trips, because without that, the kids wouldn't have those experiences. So we appreciate it. And
Sure.
I think if we thank you, we also have to thank your wife. I know she's been a part of most of that as well. So I have to tell her thank you from us as well.
Alrighty.
Just a side comment relating to Nick's Hamilton class and the Mellow Minor class. I got a chance to sit in on a couple of those when they were in session, doing my observations, and I've not seen a more engaging class for kids than those two classes. The kids were just attentive and listening the entire time. It was just great to see the excitement in the classroom. I had one opportunity to listen to one of Nick's presenters that it was a distance opportunity with one of the Medal of Honor recipients, and there was hardly a dry eye in the room. It was really a wonderful opportunity to sit in and observe. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
Nice job.
All right, well, Nick, thank you. If you want to hang out and listen to the rest of our meeting, you're welcome to. But if you want to sneak out, I understand that too. So then the next item of business is the approval of the 2019-2020 academic standards.
Okay, so in the notes that I gave you, there's a link to the DPI standards. We talked about, the last year we've been working on, aligning our standards in the district. But this is something that we base all of that off of, and it's a state statute that requires the district to adopt academic standards. We use the Wisconsin state standards to follow. And some of those are aligned with the national standard depending on the content area.
Everybody understands?
Yep. I move to approve the academic standards.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the 2019-2020 academic standards. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is review of the 2018-19 seclusion and restraints.
Okay, so
Yeah.
at the end of each year, the state requires every school district to report out on any seclusions or restraints that were necessary. I have the document in your board packet.
Can you back up and explain what that means?
Yep. So we do crisis prevention intervention. So CPI training. All of our special ed staff and then some of our regular ed staff are trained and have that training. And all it is if there's any students that require that it's necessary to either seclude them from the area or restrain them if they're causing harm to others or themselves. You have to use the appropriate techniques to do so, and then you have to document it. We really don't have much in the Clear Lake District. This year is probably the most we've ever had. This document breaks it down between the elementary and then the junior senior high. The elementary, we had one restraint that was used. So typically if a student at the elementary level, if they're having, for lack of better terms, kind of a meltdown or causing self-harm or harm to others, maybe throwing stuff, we'll have to remove them from that area or remove the whole class from that area until they can regain control, and then they get re-entered back into the classroom setting. So that was one incident at the elementary. The junior senior high, if you notice, there were quite a few this year, and some were even on the same date. So if you notice, like on the 12th, November 12th, the 28th, there were on the 28th there were 3 incidents. So we really do our best to try. That's one student that was having struggling. Tried to reintroduce them back into the classroom. Continued to struggle. That particular student, we ended up. The second part of the year he was not in the building, and we serviced him elsewhere just because he was struggled with and that was a special ed student, so struggled with behaviors. A lot of it was sensory based issues that we were dealing with that student.
So I'm guessing the SPED is special ed.
Special ed, yep.
And then 504 is...
50. What's that? The 504 is It's similar to special ed, where
Okay.
they're receiving accommodations, but it's not special education. So like if a student is on a health plan, maybe like a typical 504 is usually related to health issues where they need accommodations and modifications, but they don't need an IEP or an individual education plan, but they need some sort of documented plan in place. Typically the 504s are facilitated by the counselors, and then both are legal documents. But we didn't have any 504 students. But we did all of the junior, senior high were special ed students. Or I think all of them, but it was all the same student except for one of those incidents.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do we need to
No motions or anything. No,
Motion or anything?
just a
No.
review of.
okay.
No other questions? Okay.
All right, then we'll move on to review of the 2019 summer school.
Okay, so if you look at the document, right after that, it has a breakdown of last couple of years. Mr. Peterson was out this year, so I covered the summer school this year. And we had a really good summer school. It was a great experience. I thought we had a lot of kids. You can see into this year we had about 223 students. That doesn't include our weight room, high school kids. So that number, will go up because it's no 9th through 12th. So we don't have any of our 9th through 12, which we don't typically get a lot of 9th through 12th kids. But we had a few credit recovery kids here, and then we had a decent amount of weight room students. So Mrs. Weiss, Patty Weiss, is a retired teacher. She does a really good job getting everything ready. She was there this year, was part of it with me, did kind of the admin role with me, and had really good participation, both with students, and we had good staff participation as well. So it was good to see our numbers go back up from last year. If you remember, we didn't offer the full summer school program last year. We didn't have 6th through 8th, I believe, last year. So the fishing is by far our most populated class, and we didn't have nobody got hooked, nobody had to go to the ER or anything like that, so it was successful. And I say that half joking, but if you walk through the elementary hallway each day, it's kind of a minor miracle that nobody has hooks in them by the end of the day.
Just imagine.
So a lot of fish got caught, and the kids we really run a neat summer school. We offer a lot of really fun classes. Obviously there's some learning that takes place as well, but it's really just a neat opportunity for all of our kids. And we also had, we qualified for the free lunch program this summer. So Mrs. Kobernick and the summer school staff did a great job having all the breakfasts and lunches ready and prepared for the kids to eat during the summer school program.
And then the swimming lessons on top of
Swimming
that.
lessons, that was huge too. We had about 100 kids, maybe just over 100 kids that we bused this year. So it's the most ever that we've ever had for our swimming lessons. So it's a lot of kids, and some of those kids the numbers are. We don't have the swimmers involved in this, but those are overlapping kids. So it was right after that we'd bus them over. So that was neat to see too, that we could bus that many kids over there to New Richmond.
Must have had all the spots filled as far as people to run it.
Yeah, yep. We had really good numbers for kids, but then also really great numbers for staff as well. We had even some recent graduates that came back and helped us out and had some. I think one of them just graduated 2 years ago and was a support staff for us. So
Good.
It was nice to see. Any questions?
Okay, then we'll move on to review of the Neola policies.
So I just threw that one on there if you guys had any questions or notes for me to take. Are we all good? We were looking at the 5,000s and 6,000s.
Yeah.
All good?
Yeah, they're fairly straightforward.
They are. There's just a lot of them, yeah.
So I had a question actually on one of them. So if you're homeschooled, I was reading in there, is it the state statute, like you have to, if they want to take a couple classes, they still can?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep, they can. And they can participate in athletics as well.
Okay. found that a little odd, but I was
Yeah.
just curious about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we'll move on to the approval of the 2019-20 food service prices, student fees, and athletic event prices.
Okay, so if you look in just the notes page, I think they ended up being in red. Very second page after the agenda. I didn't have a separate document, so I put the listing of each year since I've been here. It's been mandated that they go up a little bit. There's been some changes, so this is the second year, I believe. I don't think we increased them last year. Or if we did, we just increased the junior high. But because our Fund 50, which is our food service program, is always in the positive, they do a great job. We don't have to increase our any of the meal prices. So if you look at, I have it broken down by building and then breakfast and lunch. You can see what the prices are, and then you can also see like we've talked about free and reduced prices. The reduced prices are the last line item there. So this is a proposal just to have no increases. So all of the numbers are staying the same. And then I threw in the athletic event prices because you guys reviewed those last year, and then our student fees. So all of our prices and our fees are relatively inexpensive for our student population, which is nice. And I say that kind of compared to other districts.
I have a couple of kids in the Amory district, and you wouldn't believe the difference between our prices and theirs.
Yeah, I think one big thing that I've seen in our district, which I fully support, is the athletic. Some of the costs that's associated with kids participating, which is unfortunate, I think, in a lot of districts. And you guys have done a nice job, and previous boards of our previous board have done a nice job of making sure that those prices it's not expensive for our kids to participate.
Right.
Yeah, even for like the youngsters and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to some of the adults, the teachers, the high school athletes stepping up and donating time,
Mhm.
especially for some of the younger kids' activities.
Yeah. Any questions with any of that?
That's refreshing. So like the food services portion, that's all figured out by that long formula, and that didn't dictate that we needed to raise our prices?
Yep. So I don't know if you remember last year, but I think last year was the first time that they gave us an amount. I don't remember what it was. If it was a nickel or a dime or whatever, and then they gave us the freedom of you guys had the freedom of putting it where we wanted. So we adjusted only the junior high
Yeah, we moved something.
pricing, but this is the first time since I've been here where we haven't had to increase it,
Right.
have a mandated increase.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about any of the prices? All right, then I would need a motion.
Move to approve the food service student fees and athletic event prices.
Second.
So properly moved and seconded to approve the prices. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Then we'll move on to the discussion of the 2019 annual meeting.
Okay, so the annual meeting has always been the fourth Monday in August. We'll still have our August meeting on the second Monday of the month. And then I just put on the fourth Monday in August is August 26th. So if that's when you guys want to keep it.
Sounds good to me.
Yep, me too.
You guys down with that?
Yeah.
I won't be there, but if you can survive without me.
John? You married?
Yeah.
We needed him last year.
Yeah.
You can stop by and pick me up.
What time did we do it last year?
So last year we did it at 7 p.m.
Yeah, didn't we have like a meeting before the meeting or regular?
No, we had bad weather, didn't we?
Yeah, you're right. We did. We had bad weather.
Was that the bad weather day?
I think so.
Yeah.
There's only was one.
Yeah, because I called WASB just asking what happens if we.
If nobody shows up. Yeah.
So.
Do you have to
No one
have
did
somebody
show
show up in order to?
Well, didn't you figure
Run
out
it?
since we're
No,
part of
because
the
yeah,
vote?
yeah, we don't. You don't. If you don't have anybody show up, you can still run it.
Okay.
So it's up to you guys if you want to do August 26th.
7, yeah. Did we used to in the past meet before the meeting, but
There's no
had
reason
two
to really,
meetings
for us, I don't know, at least with the preliminary budget we're going over tonight, there's going to be a couple changes, but not a whole lot of changes. I mean, it's still, like, the preliminary budget is totally best guess. With a lot of the numbers, it's, I hate to say, kind of shooting in the dark, but a lot of it is you're just making making a best guess. And there'll be a couple numbers that we'll have that I'll be able to adjust. Even one of them actually came out today that I'll be talking about tonight that aren't reflected in the numbers that I gave you. But not all of all of the October numbers will be in. So
right.
So there's really no reason to go over the same stuff twice.
Okay. All right, August 26th at 7 o'clock. So then the next item of business is the approval of the 2019-2020 preliminary budget.
Okay. So it's the last item in the packet. It's colored for you. I'm just going to pull my note. Okay. So this is where we're at. So these are the numbers. Like I said, a lot of the numbers haven't come in yet, so it's just kind of best guess. There's the governor's budget is also a big variable in that. Just today, got an email. The per pupil aid adjustment looked like that those numbers came in, so I based it off of $630. It looks like it's going to be 700 and something. So it'll be about 68, almost $70,000 more than I had anticipated, which is a good thing because this isn't a balanced budget. We're definitely going to be in the hole based on this, but this is worst case scenario. This has a bus built in. We lost 2 grants. I'm not sure if we'll have the high transportation aid again or not. So that's a maybe. So that's about $40,000. So there's a lot of, this is total worst case scenario. So anyway, the very first page, you'll see the left column is the final budget from last year. Everything in red is this year's preliminary budget. So if you guys have any specific questions, feel free. But a lot of the clean numbers, go ahead.
Why did you use red?
I just
No, it's just
Yeah.
such a, like, screaming negative.
usually,
Done.
yeah. Usually, what I do is I print it off in black and white, so that way when you guys get
It's more
yours,
comforting for
you
us.
can't. Yeah, you can't see it. But anything in red, like even if you'll see the years in red. That way, I know I have to change it. But on yours, you usually don't see it. But we got new printers, and it printed all my stuff off in color for you. So, because actually all my documents are red like that, but you guys get them in black and white. So I should have done
Just so
green.
you know
You're
we
right.
prefer-
I'm just kidding.
So if you look on the right-hand side, pretty much all of the numbers that are clean, those are almost exactly what's budgeted from the year before. So like you look at like the mobile home tax, that was $6,200. That's just a ballpark, but it's kind of what we always budget in from the previous year. Anything that has the numbers that kind of look funky, like the property tax, that's based off of something. So this entire budget is based off of a 5% increase in health insurance, which we know is happening, the 2% increase in dental. The couple big things that happened to the numbers for next year that have impacted are our open enrollment in and our open enrollment out. Those, when you look through the names of all of the individuals that are open enrolled in or out, like my own, for example, we have, next year I'll have 4 Ernst kids coming in. They're connected to someone in the district, like myself. They're not going to be going to, Amory. Or vice versa. We have like 2 administrator kids from Prairie Farm, a teacher from Prairie Farm. We have a lot of kids that are connected to individuals from different school districts. So there's really no, I feel like that's the biggest variable when you look at the open enrollment. But unfortunately, right now we have more, because of the numbers of the graduating classes, last year's number. We had a big senior class that graduated that were open enrollment coming in. So we have more kids going out than we do coming in, and we get a certain dollar amount for kids coming in, and any kids that going out, we pay that school district a dollar amount. So that's unfortunate. Right now we have more out than we do coming in. This was also based off of a 0% property increase, which most likely will have a small percentage of a property increase, but I just wanted to play it safe, and I based it off of a 0% increase. And then this is also based off of a 2% salary increase for all employees, which is said that that's something that we had said that we wanted to really commit to doing. So with all that said, I'll talk about the numbers, but I think at the very end, we do need to revisit or at least discuss. We've had the conversation at a small scale of the possibility of a referendum, and I think we're getting close to that conversation, especially if we want to, like we talked about in the fall, creating a compensation model for the teachers. Post Act 10, we haven't made those adjustments, and I think that's something that they're calling for, and I think it's something that that we're due for, like we talked about at a couple meetings ago at the end of last year, or 3/4 of the way of the year last year. We talked about that was kind of our next step, is a compensation plan. And I think we can do that, but I also think that we might want to look at a referendum. So with that said, this is kind of where we're at. So if you look through the far right column, the preliminary budgets, a lot of the stuff that's the variables, the property taxes, the very first line, we won't know until the increase comes in October. Under about a third of the way down the page, you see that the transportation aid, the library aid, the per pupil aid adjustment, the equalization aid, sparsity aid, like all of those big numbers, those numbers are just guesses right now. So there's nothing really that's set in stone. We did just, like I said, we just got the per pupil aid adjustment, so that's going to go up almost 70,000, which will help us a lot. That'll be nice to get that, and then those other numbers we'll have in October. So those are just best guesses. So if you go to the very bottom of page 1, the total Fund 10 revenues is at $7,300,000 number on the last number on the far right. So if you look at that number and then you look at the expenditures, so went through all the revenues are just the best guesses. The expenditures are we have a better handle on, just because we know what we spent last year, and this is based off of nothing wild or crazy, other than we've scheduled to buy a bus every other year. So if we can't do that this year, that may have to wait till next year, but which is 85 to 90,000. I should say 85 to about 95,000. That is scheduled or built into these numbers. But the total Fund 10 expenditures is $7,700,000 number. So there's a fairly decent, almost $300,000 discrepancy. But like I said, we're losing that DOJ grant, which was about $40,000, a little over $40,000. We won't have the SSRA grant, which was that $23,000. I also said that it doesn't have the high transportation aid, which would help us out with. That's $40,000. The $70,000 of the per pupil aid, and then you just don't know with the sparsity aid and the equalization aid, some of those numbers. So we have a good amount in our Fund 10 balance, which will be fine, but we definitely I'm hoping that we'll receive more aid and so it'll be closer to a balanced budget than I have predicted. So any questions with Fund 10?
So am I reading this correctly? We're right now today predicting close to a $300,000 loss out of Fund 10 balance.
Yeah.
Okay. Which 70,000 of it got eliminated just today?
Yeah, and there's also things that I can do, after we have the actual numbers to make a decision on if we don't want to spend that, like I said, 100,000 on the bus, and but really the expenditures, there's nothing crazy in here. We didn't do any huge projects or anything like that. We have been. We also have been putting some money into the Fund 46, which if we're running tight, we won't do that next year. Which we've been able to do about 100,000 into that Fund 10, which, like I said, will hopefully, once we get to that referendum conversation, this building will need a new roof, and then we've done our due diligence to.
What fund are you talking about with the roof?
Do you remember the Fund 46?
46?
It's kind of like the safety net fund.
But you don't have anything going in there in the budget though yet.
Nope. So at the end of the year, the budgeting is a really, it's supposedly Wisconsin is the most like complex and difficult to understand budgeting than any other state in the United States. So anyway, the Fund 46 has really helped me out. 2 years ago, the Baird company said, why don't you do this fund? It was like the last year that you could do it. It really, at the end of the year, well, let me back up. If you underspend or if you overspend your budget, you get penalized with your aid. So you don't want to underspend, but you also don't want to overspend, because then it'll affect your aid for the next year, which is, coming in my mind, I just thought you could save money and then you use it, a year or two later, and that's not how the education funding system works. So with Fund 46, if you underspend, instead of getting penalized, you can put that money into this Fund 46, but then it was based off of you couldn't touch it for 5 years, and it can only be used for operational purposes. So we talked about the possibility of a roof. I don't remember. I'd have to look back at my notes, some of the other stuff that we talked about, but you could use it for pretty much anything operational in your district. It can't be used for like salaries or anything like that. But so we have $200,000 in that account right now. And we'll have some more this year to go in there, I think, but I'm not sure yet what that number will be.
Didn't make very good interest last year.
What's that?
It didn't make very good interest last year.
Because
it's 200.
Oh, and it definitely has some, but I just put the clean numbers in there. So anyway, that helps on the underspending side, but it obviously doesn't help on the overspending side, which is what we're kind of talking about now. But anyway, based on the Fund 46 that we've been allowed to put in that, the bus, and some of the other items that I've talked about, I think most likely will be okay. But obviously $300,000 is a lot of money. So we'll see we'll know more in October when you guys approve the final budget after we have all of those numbers in. So like I said, Fund 10, like we talked about before, Fund 10 is the majority of our funding. It's $7 million of our total budget, and in the annual meeting I'll give you the breakdown. If you guys remember, I'll give you the breakdown of each so each fund. Like last year's, but the total expenditures last year were just a hair under 10 million. So of that almost 10 million, 7.5 or 7.3 million is, I should say 7 for expenditure, 7.7 is from Fund 10. So obviously the majority of our budget, almost 75% of our budget is the Fund 10. So then you have Fund 27, which is our special ed budget. Pretty much the same thing. We have to transfer funds from our Fund 10 to cover the cost of the Fund 27 each year. And that number is reflected in there. Again, no major changes in Fund 10 other than really the 2% increase of salaries, and then the 5% health and 2% dental are in those numbers. Fund 38 and Fund 39 are on the third page, our referendum dollars, all of our debt services for energy efficiency upgrades, and then the actual referendum that was in 2012 maybe. You know that one? 2012,
13.
13? Okay. Fund 46 we talked about. That's, like I said, kind of called the Capital Projects Fund. I call it my safety net. Kind of helps us out at the end of the year. And Fund 50 we've talked about a little bit. That is our kitchen, our food service fund, which is always in the positive, or has been since I've been here. Has always been in the positive. We have a good participation in our breakfast and lunch programs, and Ms. Korbernick does a really nice job down there. So nothing really in that. We had a couple projects because we had to spend money, so we did a couple projects down there. Right now they're doing the whole, you guys approved the floor to be redone, so they're doing that actually right now, or they were today, earlier. We bought a cooler, so we were at the point where we have to spend money in the Fund 50, so it's a good problem to have. Fund 72, I don't have a lot of involvement. That's our scholarship fund. Not really money that goes in, money comes out, and it's all based on the scholarships that are given out to our students. And then community fund, community service is same as last year. We're looking at the levy of the $30,000, and that was the same as last year as well. So not a whole lot of difference on that either. Any questions?
So in October, when these numbers become published and you get to find out what you get to put in the blanks, Josh, do you have that marked on your phone so you can anticipate them and sit and watch?
No, but I get emails from multiple places.
That must be an exciting day.
It can be. Of course. Depends on what the numbers are. Like today was a good day. You know, when I got the email, I got 3 different emails saying that the numbers were a little bit higher than anticipated, which is a good thing.
Good. Well, let's hope the rest of them continue to do that.
Yep. And I forgot one other thing. So with this, so this is based off, like I said, the health insurance, 5% dental, 2% open enrollment in and out. The property increase of 0%, 2% salary. So with all that said, this will be put us at a mill rate of $10.14 for 2019-20, which does, and like when I was working with Baird, I said I always like to have the mill rate higher at this meeting, and then when the actual numbers come in, it's nice to have that number a little bit lower. But even with that, the mill rate at 10.14 historically, you know, on our the document that I give you for our annual meeting, that's still lower than, you know, the last year, 2010-11, it was $10.15. You know, this past year it was $9.78, but it dropped in 16-17 to the 17-18 year. It went from $10.65 to $9.62. So it's still in that same kind of range. You know, from, like I said, 2010-11 was $10.15. So we're still sitting good as far as consistency with the mill rate. Okay. Any questions with the budget or thoughts on the referendum possibility?
It's a big thing to wrap our heads around, so let us know when you're ready to start on it.
Okay.
Josh. You have people that would help you with that.
Yeah, so every district that goes to a referendum, they contract with certain agencies. I'd begin working with Baird. There's especially one individual that could probably even give us almost the pretty close to the exact dollar amount of what we would need and what it would cost as far as mill rate. You know, we're a relatively smaller district, so the conversation, like Amory has a reoccurring referendum where it just automatically goes. I'd be fearful of like a 5-year reoccurring referendum where every 5 years you got to go up for referendum where, you know, if you get a change and people don't want to vote, then you have a even if you do a small increase with compensation and then that doesn't pass, and you're stuck looking at, what's next. And really your biggest cost saving is salaries and benefits, so you'd have to make cuts. And there are a lot of districts that threaten, we'll have to shut down athletics, but realistically that doesn't happen, because that doesn't cost a lot of money to run an athletics program. It costs money to have people in front of, your teachers in front of kids. So that's what I would propose. I think a safe number for us to look at is about $50,000 each year would get us to the point where we could look at, that gives us 2% increase plus some wiggle room. When you look at, ballpark 50, teachers that we have, and the teacher compensation model is really what we're talking about. At 2%, I mean, depending on it, it'd be under $1,000. So if you $800, $700-800, I would, and I'm just guessing, is right around that 2% mark. So if you have 1,000, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room to make some creative decisions to try to attract and retain
Their
staff.
teachers and stuff.
Yeah, my personal opinion, and actually Mr. Crawford was in on a conversation with me at the end of the year about kind of leading that charge with us as far as that conversation and bringing in teachers in the fall. I really think our biggest issue is attracting, not necessarily retaining at the far end of the scale, because we really do have a pretty nice retirement package for teachers that a lot of districts have gone away from. But we don't have the ability right now to attract in the way that we would like, I think.
Right. So the people that they would help us frame up what we need and then actually lay out a plan to get us to passing the referendum then all the way along.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to create something that's, the tricky thing is, obviously it's something, I think it's easy to create something that's understandable, that everybody can understand. That's easy. And it's fairly easy to create something that most, I should say, are happy with. I think the key variable is something that's sustainable. I think that's the piece that's tough, to create something that is going to last and that you aren't looked at as, because I've seen districts where superintendents have talked and everybody's like, this person's the best thing since sliced bread, and then a year or two down the road you're forced to freeze all salaries, and then everybody's upset. That's the last thing that I would want to do, and I don't think that'd be fair to anybody. So that piece is probably going to be the most difficult, to just try to create something that's sustainable. And I think when we go down that road, when we look at everything and we put things in writing, kind of on paper, and then I'll be able to go to Baird and share, kind of what our proposal is, then I think that will tell us if we need to look at a referendum or not.
Right.
And my gut tells me it does, that we will. I think that because right now we're it's kind of everything's dictated by the numbers, and I think that would give us enough wiggle room to be able to
Have to pull the trigger.
yeah. So that's kind of where we're at.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion?
Yep, you need a motion for the preliminary budget to be approved.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the preliminary budget.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve our 2019-20 preliminary budget. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item of business is the superintendent notes. Mr. Ernst.
Okay, I don't have much. We've just been, just finished up the closing of the budget. So I'd like to thank Ms. Karnick and Ms. Norby for all their work. The district office gets a little crazy during that time of year with a lot of purchases and end of the year stuff. And then also they're preparing for the auditing process, which is in a couple weeks. And then I'm also looking at doing this work, with Baird, the building of the budget. So it's just a lot of things in motion and it's kind of a crazy time at the end of the year. So thanks to them in the district office, those two individuals who do a great job. The only other thing that we had is we just recently took a team. There's 12 of us that went to Minneapolis for a PLC conference, which is Professional Learning Communities. Actually, Mr. Crawford was a part of that as well. So we had 12 of us go down. I think it was 12, right? 12 of us go down to that. Arguably one of the best conferences I've ever been a part of. I thought it was some really good stuff, and it really validated kind of the work that we've been doing last year as far as the direction that we're headed with the standards of work. Kind of, for me, solidified the where we're headed with that. I feel like we're headed in a good direction as a district, and I feel like it was bringing just kind of a larger team, larger scale to the table to have some of those conversations as well. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or Mr. Crawford, if you had anything to add to that.
It was a tremendous conference. It was blunt when it needed to be. It was to the point of what we were talking about with our standards last year, so it all made sense as to why we're doing what we're doing in that avenue. So it was great. Yeah.
And the focus is just kind of explain it a little bit. It really is moving away from teachers doing their own thing in their own classroom. So not only aligning their curriculum to the standards, but also then collaborating with fellow colleagues around the district and even outside of the district, and have those conversations as far as what they're doing and not teaching all by themselves. So really moving towards more of a team approach, and a lot more communication amongst colleagues. And then the next step is talking about kind of our assessment practices, what we're doing as a district, what individuals are doing, but then also to have those conversations, aligning them vertically and horizontally with, which is not easy to do in a small district. It's a little bit easier at the elementary, where you have, more than one teacher per grade level, and you can work, the 3 second grade teachers can work together to create common assessments or like tests and quizzes, or but someone like Mr. Crawford, who's really kind of one, offers electives where it's just one person, and it's a little bit difficult. So just learning how to have some of those collaborative conversations in that area as well. So I thought it was a really good conference, and I felt like everybody got a lot out of it. So now it's bringing it back into the district and not just having it in the 12 individuals that participated in the conference. So
was it individuals from both buildings?
Yep. So we brought so Mr. Gillis, myself, Mr. Peterson met, talked about who we would like to go, and then also who would be available to go. We wanted to kind of get individuals from both buildings, but then also different areas within both of the buildings. So we had I thought it was a good representation of both buildings.
We tried to make sure we had middle school and high school teachers involved. We had a pretty good group. Yeah, I think it was very, in a way for me, reaffirming of some of the things that I've started in this building, is meeting as teams on a regular basis, curricular-wise. We had our math teams meeting now. Every year we've been onboarding another team, trying to find a place in the schedule where we can pull them out during RAP and meet. And it was good it was very reaffirming that we're going in the right direction. We got some good things started, we're going in the right directions, and it helped solidify that with a few people, I think. Just see where we're going.
So has it been quite a challenge to kind of bring this full circle, to get everybody bought into it?
The buy-in hasn't been so much the challenge. It's been more the how do we schedule people in a crazy schedule to get together to meet. If one person's missing, when you have a 2-person team, it's tough.
Right.
One person's out that day, or if that person's also a coach and they're gone, an hour away to a ball game that left at 2, and we got to figure out how to be a little more creative with our meeting time, whether it's before school, after school, working out some of those kinds of logistics. But we can do it. It's just figuring it out.
Yeah, and I don't think the buy-in has been the problem. I think last year really the weather was the problem, with all of the snow days that we had. you guys were great with, approving that the staff didn't make up all of those days, but it also, some of those snow days caused conflicts because, we put in a student contact day during one of those in-service days, so it was a lot of asking teachers to meet, after school, and it was just, in the end of the year is a stressful time to begin with, just because it is with everything going on, and kids are sometimes ready to be done at the end of the year, and trying to get all those meetings in place. So anyone that I talked to, I don't think anybody felt like the standards work itself was, like, I feel like everybody understands the importance of it. It's just the time of, all the surveys that we asked staff of what do you need, it was always time. So.
And then you get spring sports and so many coaches and rescheduled events, and it got really crazy this spring.
So yeah, it was good. So that was the only other thing that I had to add to that.
Cool.
Other than that, it's been, now summer school's done, and it's been, both buildings are fairly quiet, and some of the cleaning and breaking, the custodial crew does a nice job making sure both buildings are clean and getting ready for the fall.
By August, it's awful lonely, and you're ready for the kids to come back.
Not quite
And we're
August
ready
yet,
to
though,
send
is
them
it?
back.
You're ready to send them back.
Yeah.
Might be ready next week, actually.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you, Mr. Ernst.
Yep.
Future agenda items then.
I don't
Do we have
know.
another set of NEOA policies to go through, or we?
We will, yep. We'll have one more kind of round of them. I think we have a handbook. I don't have anything for sure set. I think there's an elementary handbook that Mr. Peterson is going to have on the agenda. But,
Okay. Anybody have anything? No? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. We are adjourned.